Hi everyone, today I'm going to share with you my experience with the curve optimization and the curve shaper on the MSI board using the Ryzen 9950X3D, as you can see over here. And as for the motherboard, I'll be using the MSI B850M Mortar Wi-Fi. Now, with this said, you can apply to any of the MSI board which are of 800 series, okay, be it the X870E or the B850. Now, if you are running the 600 series, this might work or might not work. I'm talking about the X670E or the B650. So do it at your own risk. And besides this, right, I'll be using this pair of RAM kit coming from Wilde, which is a 48 gig kit. And these are the cache latency with the bus speed and the voltage. And for today, I have swapped out my liquid cooler. Most of the time, I've been using Arctic Liquid Freezer 2 360. But somehow I spotted some rust on my liquid cooler, so I decided to change before it affect my open bench. So with this area, I'm going to make use of this Galahad coming from Ronnin, known as the Galahad 2 Lite. First off, be it whether it's a new build or an existing build, you can make use of the guide over here. Just make sure that you pay attention for the first few minutes, as this is quite important before you do any tuning. Now, assuming that you're new to PC building and piece up the system, first thing to do is to boot up to UEFI, as you can see over here. By the way, this is a B850M Mortar Wi-Fi. So we just select to PBO Auto and it will take you to this interface. Now, in this interface, check all the things that is populated, like your RAMs and your processor and such. Once you've done checking and make sure that all the components are populated correctly in UEFI, do not hurry up to do the fine tune. First thing to do is to update the BIOS. And reason for that, you can improve the performance, the optimization, and inclusive of the experience on the RAM training cycle. So these are the reason why you should update your BIOS first. Now, if this is an existing setup, you have Windows installed, do the same too. Make sure you have the latest Agisa version, or should I say the BIOS version. As for BIOS update, I wouldn't advise you to come to UEFI and to make use of this M flash. Reason being, right, during the process when you load, if there is a power failure, it will prick your board. Okay, make use of the BIOS flashback button at the back of your motherboard, which is the rear I/O section. Now, I'd like to introduce to you to one gentleman. His name is Ronnin Wilde. He did a very comprehensive on how to do the BIOS flashback, making use of the button at the back of the rear I/O. And this documentation, or should I say the presentation, right, not only covers MSI, it covers, as you can see on the timestamp, MSI board, ASUS board, Gigabyte board, and the ASRock board. And not only showing you that, he did illustrate on preparation on the thumb drive. As you can see, he will show you, okay, what to do and make sure the format is correct, okay, and to set up and to format to FAT32 and such. As you can see the illustration over here, right, he will guide you through as what to do and such. He will guide you through step by step, seriously step by step. So this is actually a very useful channel. In fact, not only this, he does other stuff like, you know, explaining the motherboard lane sharing and such. So I'll to advise you guys to hit down to his channel. I'll just leave the URL at my top right hand corner. You can proceed or to click on the URL in my description. Alright, and do remember to subscribe to him. A very useful YouTube channel. Okay, back to where I was on UEFI. As mentioned, once you've done the BIOS flashback and it's up to date, first thing to do on your motherboard, head down to advanced. You will need to set cooling solution first before you do anything. So I'll advise you to hit down to the hardware monitor, where it shows you all the fans that's populated in your system. Now, it just happened that my system is only a liquid AIO, and it happened it's a old generation Arctic Liquid Freezer 2. It doesn't have a pump header, but I do know that my pump is not running on smart fan mode, which is on full 100%. So that's okay. Next, we'll be configuring my radiator fans. Now, for radiator fans, you guys can actually follow if you want to. It's just my comfort that I feel that this is a good setting. Now I will set to, no, this is 60, this is 450. Oops. You can set according to whatever curve you want to, alright? This is just my preference that I prefer to have it this way. So once you have done this, right, anyway, this is my curve. You can make use of this to do the point too, see? It's up to you. Okay, I have to put this back. I prefer manual execution more than anything. So once this is done, right, you can start to tune, but just tune only the RAM profile. Okay, go to overclock. First thing to do, okay, this is messed up. Okay, scroll down and you can see XMP or Expo. Now if your RAMs have dual function, right, dual profile, right, select on the Expo, which is meant for AMD. It happened that my RAMs are equipped with XMP profile and Expo profile, but I'll enable Expo because, as mentioned, this is for AMD. Then once you've done this, right, the rest you can leave it, don't touch. Then go down to the voltage. Now for this illustration, a lot will witness that on another processor, right, I often like to do offset, but for this processor, which is a 9950X3D, I will just leave it as it is. I will not do the offset, as this is a 16 core 32 thread, so it will require the current to run to be stable, I should say. But you can touch on your RAM SoC, which I will be setting this to override and a minimum of 1.15 volt. Okay, in the event if you find that the system is not stable and such, right, you can pump this to 1.16. I do know, as I have tested this RAMs, right, they are able to run at 1.15, no problem. Yours probably might be 1.16 or 1.18. Now maximum I will go just a bit of advice, do not hit more than 1.2. okay, don't leave it as 1.2. If you leave it as 1.2, right, it will stretch. It's like when it do the benchmark, right, it will just hit over. The best is do it 1.18, which is the highest. So as mentioned, this is 1.15. my RAMs can take it. Once this is done, okay, you can exit, save it, then install Windows. Assuming the fresh copy of Windows is installed, the first three things you will need to do before you do anything else. First is to check on the device manager. By the way, you will see lots of exclamation mark, and when you boot up for the very first time in Windows, right, there should be a prompt on the lower right, which is in fact the MSI Center, asking you to download all the necessary drivers. Just download it, and once that is downloaded and installed, right, it will be clear with all the exclamation mark, meaning say there won't be any exclamation mark, and make sure you reboot the system. Once you have done this, the second thing you need to do is to install the chipset driver. Now all this that I'm going to explain to you, right, with all the I would say the URL will be in my description, so you can just hit down and to download. So back to where I was, make sure that this AMD chipset is installed. This is a must, because when you're running off this dual stack CCD, right, as in like having the total of 16 core to run, right, you will need this to do the core parking. It's necessary. So make sure you download this and to install. Once it's installed, right, this will pop up. Check on the latest version, make sure they are up to date. Click on manage updates on the top right, and you will have this. Under the installed, make sure there are no updates over here to show that these are the latest version. Once it is done, okay, reboot the system. And the third step is to do a Windows update. Okay, make sure this is up to date. Just do a check. Now while you're checking, right, let me just prepare you with the rest of the application. You will need hardware info. Download this, install it. You will need Cinebench R23. If you prefer R24, you can go ahead and download. You will need firmware. You will need either 64, and you will need Ryzen Master. Okay, make sure you install this application. I forgot to mention that you need Riva Tuner. Okay, normally I'll get it from Guru. Yep. So make sure you have all this installed. By the way, all this URL I will leave in my description. You can just click and to download. And to check the update, okay, there's none. Now, before doing any tuning, I would advise to pre-configure things that you need. Okay, like the Ryzen Master, make sure it's loaded properly and to show all the stats properly and such. So while this is added, right, I will also configure the permark and such. So for permark, right, I've actually selected to this, so when I run the test, this will be on. Now, to have this on the screen, you will need River Tuner. Okay, this is the application. Make sure this is checked on. If it's off, right, it's gone. So check it on. And to pull out all these stats, you will need hardware info. Okay, as you can see over here, the hardware info. Now, for hardware info, right, how do I pull all these stats over here? Take for example the CPU temperature. I will normally take from here. Okay, normally I'll check this, the temperature against the temperature under the motherboard, which is the same, so I'll take it here. So once you want this to show up on permark, right, you just do a right click, click on OSD RTSS and check this too. Okay, let me just show you. See, this is gone. I want to show, right, I'll just check this and make sure you check on show label. If you don't show label, right, you wouldn't know what temperature that belongs to. And of course, you can change color. As you can see here, I've changed the colors over here. So if you want this to be in some different colors, right, you can just select color and to do, let's say I would do this color, thick for example, right? See, it will show. But I'm not going to do that. And if you want to arrange the rows, you can set this. I can do until 25 if I want to. See, you just pull down. So this is how you do the arrangement on pulling the stats. Okay, let me do this properly. Now once you've done this, right, as mentioned to you, you will need to install R23, which is semi-bench. You will have to set to advanced mode. Okay, so that this thing here will show. Alright, with all this said, right, let me just show you the actual tuning. Right now it's only on Expo profile with all the drivers installed and such. Now you want to go into UEFI. Normally you will have to restart the system and to press the delete key, right? There is a short way of doing it. You can do a shortcut. Let me just show you. Do a right click, click on new and click on shortcut. Type this command, shutdown. By the way, this command line I will leave it in my description too. You can just copy and paste. /R. Now what is R? In fact, is restart. Leave a space /FW. This means to say bring me to UEFI, which is FW means firmware. Leave a space /T, either 0 or 1. For me, I like to set it to 1. The delay will be 1 second. Once you've done this, right, click on next. Name this file. I'll just put BIOS. And you will have the shortcut. With this said, don't just stop there. Do a right click. Go to properties. This step is essential. Okay, if not, it will not work. Click on advanced and check on run as administrator. Because you need the administrator right to execute. Once you've done this, right, change the icon if you want to. I will just change the icon to this so that I know that this is to boot into UEFI without having me to press the delete key. Click on apply. So once it's done, right, let me just take you to the UEFI by just double clicking on this. See, it's quite straightforward. This will take some time, and in no time, see, I'm not doing anything. I'm not touching the keyboard. If I touch the keyboard, you can hear it. Instead, from here, you will boot into UEFI. Now, the following step that I will be doing, right, this is only meant for my RAMs. Okay, if your RAMs doesn't work, right, please do not set these settings. Now I'll go further doing the settings of my RAMs, as I know that this set of RAMs are the 6000 megahertz bus speed. So under the Expo profile, right, okay, first thing I'll do is to declare my DRAM speed, which I know is 6000. Now this only work on 6000. Okay, whatever configuration that I'm going to do here, especially on the F clock frequency, I know this is 2000. This is a 1:1 ratio. If you are using 6400 and so, right, this won't be the set. I mean, this F clock frequency will not be the setting, so do take note on this. And for U clock div1 mode, I'll set this to 1:1 ratio, which is U clock equal to mem clock. Okay, meaning say the interaction between your RAMs and your processor, right, is a 1:1 non-delay time. Okay, this is actually what it meant. Then next thing, I will set the high efficiency mode. Now this might work on your RAM or might not work. If you find that when you have saved all these settings, right, and it doesn't run, right, you have to come back here and to, you know, set this high efficiency mode to auto. It just happened that this RAM do this pretty well because I have a tight timing RAM, which is CL28. Then once that's done, right, I'll do the preset as tightest and check on the rest. Okay, done. I will save and take you to Windows. Now throughout this whole run, I'll just let you wait and such, so that it gives you a live experience. Now during the setup that you've done in UEFI, it will take some time for the system to do the RAM training cycle and such. Same goes to your Windows. Now as mentioned to you, I will not pause here or cut short and stuff like this. If I have speak incorrectly, right, do pardon me. Okay, right now it's going to take some time. I know that it will boot in no time, so just got to wait. So remember this fact that if you are not able to run the RAMs at high efficiency mode, right, make sure you come back here and to reset it. Okay, see, right now it's actually booting into Windows. It takes a fair bit of time. As mentioned to you, the RAM training cycle will take some time, but this is only the initial start. So every time when you configure anything on UEFI that touches the processor, right, it will take some time. Alright, now boot to Windows. Now when you're booting into Windows, do not hurry to, you know, execute test run and such. I'll just let it run, because there are other background application that is running, like the river tuner and especially the hardware info. This is essential, so have to wait for it. Okay, this is up. Make sure there are no hourglass on your cursor. Then once you have done this, right, the first thing that you need to do is to do the idle 64 stress test, stability test, to make sure that the RAMs are working properly. So I'll have to click on this, and a short brief, right, I will just run this instead of firm up, because this will pull out the stats. Okay, this application here, okay, let me just close this. This application here, desktop overlay, comes together when you install the river tuner. So you click on this, it will show. Then from there, right, just do a run. Okay, run this probably about 10 minutes, 15 minutes. If the whole system runs fine, right, that means to say your RAMs are perfectly stable. You can continue on with the next step. Now, assuming that this is 50 minutes and it's without any problems, if there are, right, it will flash red. Okay, this is without problem. I will just stop. Okay, assuming this is actually to the 10 minutes or 15 minutes mark. Okay, you can close this, you can close this. Now, the very basic, I will grab the processor spec. You can head down to the official website and to take down the specs. As this is a 9950X3, so I'll just open up the general specification. I'll take down on the max boost and the base clock. I've done up a chart nicely, so as you can see, right, I placed the base clock and the max boost. Okay, all these figures I will teach you how to grab this. And as you can see, right, there are 3 sections over here. I'll be going to do the PBO. Okay, this is redundant. Now I'll be going through with you how to do the PBO2 settings and such. I mean the curve optimizer and the curve shaper, then followed by my own settings. Okay, and I got a reason why I'm doing my own settings. But overall, if you guys want to configure, right, it will be safe to configure this section over here, which is moderate for everyone to use. Alright, with this say, right, how do I caption the PPT TDC? Oh, speaking about that, I have to apologize that in my past content that I've done the overvoting, right, it's stable, alright? Don't get me wrong, you can use those. Whereby I run the system since last year on a Nova X870E motherboard, which is October 2004. I run on a 9950X with this kind of settings, and it's been running smoothly, be whether I upgrade the BIOS version and such. And right after about April period, I've changed to a 9950X, and it's still running fine. So with this say, right, all the motherboard I've done, and to show you, right, inclusive of this MSI, right, it will works. And it not only work on this mortar. If you are using the 8000 series MSI motherboard, be it the X870E or the B850 motherboard, right, you are safe to use all these settings. But as for 600 series, which is the X670E or the B650, it might work or might not work. Okay, with this say, as mentioned to you, I will take down the readings on the max boost and the base clock over here. As you can see at the side, right, you have this yellow column over here. Well, these are the active run, which I will show you later. Now to pull the default PPT, TDC and EDC. So first thing I'll do is launch the Ryzen Master, followed by Cinebench. Okay, let me just put this somewhere around here, arranging it properly, and in the meantime launch Firmark. Now why am I launching Firmark, running Firmark together with Cinebench? As if you have not noticed, I'm not using a discrete graphic card. I want to stress on the integrated graphic on the processor together with the processing power. So this is both, right, when I run it together, right, it will tell me the actual CPU power. And I'm more concerned about CPU power drawn, as some of them have done the undervote and stretching to the max to push the CPU power up, which I will not advise. My target is to aim below the default CPU power drawn, which is right now I'm just going to run. So with this say, right, I'm just going to run the 10 minutes and take down a reading at the end of the probably about 3 to 2 minutes. Okay, here we go. Forget to set this to 10 minutes. Here we go. Last 3 minutes or so. As you can see the graph over here, right, I deliberately place it over here is to tell me how consistent the clock speed is. There are dips, though, you know, there will be dips because you're running off a 16 core 32 thread processor, so it'll be perfectly fine so long it's not often. As you can see here, it's quite consistent. Now I'm just going to take down the readings, and I forgot to mention how I got the PPT, TDC and EDC. Basically it's actually from here. As mentioned to you, I've not done the Expo profile, I've not done the PBO limits, the curve optimizer and the curve shaper. Okay, let me just take the readings down real quick. First of all, I'll take the max and the base and the max, which is over here. Okay, the max boost will be at 4.6 gig, 4.683 gig. Sorry, the base I should say. And the max will be at 5.725 gigahertz. Okay, I'll take down the rest of the readings, starting off with the CPU power. Now for the CPU power, it's at 170. Then for the SoC socket, SoC voltage, as you can see, I've set 1.15, but over here, right, it's pulling 1.164. Okay, so long as the SoC doesn't go 1.2 and above, right, you'll be safe. Then come to the peak clock, 4.819. I will take this. followed by the active PPT 200, the active TDC, which is 158, active EDC will be 161, I hope, or 163. Okay, I'll take 161. Then for the temperature on the motherboard, okay, is synchronized 75 degrees Celsius. Motherboard will be at 49.5, BRM is 49.5, chipset will be at 51 degrees Celsius, the 2 RAMs 39.5. Okay, same goes to this 39.5. And as for the M.2 is 42 degrees Celsius. Okay, I've taken down all these stats over here. I'm just going to do the curve optimizer and the curve shaper, but before I do so, right, I will need to take down the scores. And again, mention to you, right, the setting that I'm going to do later, it will be safe for you to use based on the fact that I always judge on the CPU power, not to go over this 170 watt. Okay, the scores is out, which is 40895. Okay, now I'm just going to close everything and to go into UEFI. When you are changing any configuration in UEFI, make sure that when you put into Windows, you have to you have to run the stability test on either 64. Okay, just take note on this. That is very important, because no point running the Cinebench without having a stable system. So that is a check, or should I say a must to check before you run any Cinebench. Okay, right now in UEFI, now first thing I'll do, right, I'll just go to overclock and to set, look for this advanced CPU configuration, then go to AMD CBS and scroll down to CPPC dynamic preference call. I will set this to cache. You can leave it auto, it's up to you, or you can set it driver. Driver meaning to say let the Windows to react, as in like to calculate the core parking and such. But for me, right, for workload and such, I normally do to cache. And you might be wondering, what the hell is CPPC? Well, let me just pull my thing over here. Okay, it's over here. Okay, it stands for the collaborative processor performance control. Okay, what it does is actually to mix up whatever you're using and to give you better performance and such. You can read over here. I'm not going to go through everything. Okay. Now, there's also one section where I talk about the SoC, which I will run at enable, which right now I'm going to show you. Okay, once this is done, right, as mentioned to you, you can set it to, for you can set it to driver, or you can set it to cache, or you can just leave it auto, up to you. But I would do cache more than anything else. Then next we'll be heading to advanced, then scroll down, go to AMD overclocking, accept. First thing you do, check on the SoC Uncore OC mode. Now you can again leave this. Okay, by default for MSI board, right, it's pretty cute. They will set it enable for you when you have done the Expo profile. And what does this mean? As I told you, you got to do with the Infinity Fabric. So at all times, right, it will push that profile consistently, and you will have no idle time. I guess some of you might face, system lag or system not able to boot up after sleep and such, right? Probably this is actually the cause of it. And for myself, right, I normally don't set the system to sleep. If I want to on it, I'll just use it. If I want to off it, rest, I'll just off it. So this is my take. Now, as mentioned, what does this mean? Let me take you to this. You can read over here. So at all times, right, this will run to its maximum frequency, as in like whatever you set on your Expo profile and such. It will disable the power saving mode. So this will consume a bit of power. It's all up to you. But for me, right, as mentioned to you, I don't put my PC to sleep. If I want to use it, I'll just use it. If not, I'll just turn it off So I'd rather have it this enabled. Once this is done, next step, Precision Boost Overdrive. Now with this set, right, I will set it to advanced. Now for PBO limits, please be aware of this. You can either leave it as auto, which have the default settings, which you can see over here. These are the default. Or you can manual key in. Okay, do not set to motherboard. Motherboard is in fact the motherboard manufacturer who declare all the PPT, TDC, and EDC. And often I find out that they are putting too aggressive. It's like 1000 PPT, 1000 EDC. So I wouldn't want that. I want full control. So you can leave it auto, up to you. It's just that I just have a weird kind of habit. I like to set it manual. Then set the figures as listed over here, the default. Okay, with 200 PPT, TDC, and EDC. So with PPT, right, is 200. I have memorized this. You can follow. Now, do not just leave it 200 watt, because this is in milliwatt. You have to add 3 more zeros. Oops, 200, 1, 2, 3. Then for TDC is 160 ampere. Add 3 more zero. Then for EDC is 225. 3 more zeros, which is 225 ampere. Okay. Now come to curve optimizer. This everyone can use, not a problem. I know that some of you will stretch to the extent. It's all up to you. But I wouldn't do that due to the fact that it's just like an elastic band. If you pull too much and it's consistently running that tension, right? For newly stretched is okay, but if you to run prolonged period of time, right, it will either snap or lose its tension. Once it loses tension, right, your system will gonna run with instability, or should I say unstable, or even snap, meaning to say you can't even boot the system. So do take note on this. So I'll set it to per core based on the fact that this have 2 CCD. So I'll set this to negative 15 and 10. This is a safe magnitude for majority of the 9950X 3D. Also, even the 9000 series. You can, as mentioned, right, you can set, maybe 30, 40. This is up to you. Alright, but I have mentioned I wouldn't overstretch my processor. I like it to run comfortably. So this is the things that I like to do. Then followed by the curve shaper. Now curve shaper, very daunting. Wow, a lot of configuration. You don't have to worry. Okay, stay focused. Starting with the first 3, you have minimum frequency. Then followed by next 3, low frequency. And all this frequency, right, you have low, mid, and high temperature. This comes in handy when I show you this graph. Okay. So what I've done is that the first round when I run the Cinebench is on default at a wattage of 1.35 given by the system. So if you do set the curve optimizer, right, by having it 2 CCDs as -15 and -10, right, it's pulling the whole line gradually down. Okay, full line. It doesn't give any room for tweaks. But if you were to continue on to run the curve shaper, which right now I'm going to show you, I told you that each frequency have 3 points: the low, the mid, and the high temperature. I start off tweaking at the mid frequency based on the fact that minimum frequency and low frequency, right, at idle, what is there to stress on? Nothing to stress on, right? So I start off with mid frequency and setting it as -15 on the 3 points, followed by the high frequency, setting it at -10, then followed by the max frequency at -5. And how this works? Imagine that your clock speed is going 3.8 gig, so it will pull, okay, to the extent of dropping it -15 magnitude. But when it reaches up 5.4, right, in order to catch up, right, it might not be able to stretch to -15. Instead, do it gradually, as in like, slightly lesser. So I did it at -10. And when it pushes up to 5.1 gig or so, right, it requires even better voltage. So having to say this, right, I will not set this at this upper section, which is the max frequency, to -15 or -10. Instead, I just pull a bit, -5. So these are fine tuning. And with this say, let me just set all this. Starting off, as mentioned to you, the impact start at medium frequency. And with this say, right, I will set it enable, make sure it's negative. As mentioned to you, the 3 point, this is low, 15. The medium temperature, negative again, 15. And the high frequency, high temperature, negative again, 15. Okay, I've done the first set. Next set, okay, let me just scroll down so that I can see properly. High frequency, low temperature, enable, negative. Do it slowly, alright? You don't have to rush. The 3 points, which is 10, enable, negative, 10. Next, negative again, and 10. If you do it slowly, right, you can see what you're doing. Okay. Then come to the max, the last 3 set of the max frequency. I'll enable, negative, 5. See, I did a mistake. So it's good to do it slowly. Don't have to rush things. Once you've done all this, right, don't just say that, okay, I'm done, and what. First thing to do, make sure all the magnitude are negative. So I'll just scroll through, starting from the bottom, negative, 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 negative. This is the first thing that I will check, all negative, until you hit to here. Okay, the last set. Then next thing I'll do is I'll check against the low, medium, and the high. Looking at the magnitude, what are the magnitude? So I'll go with 315, 1, 2, 3. Scroll down, 1, 2, 3. Scroll down again, 1, 2, and 3. Okay, normally this is actually hard count. I will do that. I just want to illustrate to you. I might sound silly, but this is to counter check that all you have done properly. Okay, everything is done. So right now I'm just going to save and boot into Windows. Again, when you do all the settings, right, the system will do its training and such. This will take some time. Just let it run. Don't rush things and such. So the system will do its RAM training, timing, the cycle again. It will take some time. But rest assured, once you have done all this configuration properly, right, the next time you have all this fixed value, and when you boot the system, right, you will be super fast. You will not be so lengthy. And besides this system doing the system training and to verify all your configuration, right, once you reaches Windows, when you boot into Windows, which is about right now, this is also another step. It will take some time to boot, based on the fact that it pulls up all the BIOS configuration that you've done and to plug into Windows application, okay, or OS. See, this is loaded. You can log in right now. Now, when you log into Windows homepage, okay, or should I say the home screen, do not hurry to do the benchmark and such. Let all to run first. It's like their background running, like the hardware info, the river tuner and such. Let it run. Once you know that everything is done properly, okay, I'm lagging off with the AMD. Okay, it's done. See, all these are out. Once this is out, I would emphasize this, right? Before you do any benchmark, make sure you run either 64, the stress test. And I forgot to tell you that these are things that I will test. Make sure all these are checked. By default, it will be checked. The stress CPU, FPU, the cache, and the memory. So run it for a couple of minutes, I would say 10 to 15 minutes, just to ensure that the system is stable, your configuration is stable. And after the whole configuration is done, right, I would say that you can run a full 30 minutes or 1 hour test on this. Okay, but for a start, you can just run 10 to 15 minutes. It will run stable. Once, assuming this is done, you can start to do the benchmark. Again, I will open up the Ryzen Master, the Cinebench, Firmark. Okay. Now, if you notice, right, on Cinebench, right, it has the previous score, 40K 895. And later on when I run this, right, it will be even better, I should say, after you've done the curve optimizer and curve shaper. Okay, let me just align this properly first. Okay, another way to show you, right, configuration that I've done, right, you can click on CPU and you can see this. Okay, the curve optimizer per die I've done with the magnitude of -15, -10. But I feel weird how come they don't show the curve shaper on the new version. Anyway, so this is actually how I see the configuration, double check on it. And all the PPT, TDC, right, as mentioned over here, I manually key in, right, which is based on the default. Nothing new. And I copy all this down over here. Right now, on with the test. So having to say this, right, I will just place this nicely, set this to 10 minutes, and to run the firmware. And again, pulling the hardware info to show you the base clock and boost clock, including the graph, which is here. Now I'm just going to reset this, and to run. Here we go. Last 3 minutes or so, let me just take down all the readings. Okay, starting off with the CPU power, it drops slightly. Oh, over here, 168, which is max. Oh, I should take the base clock and the boost clock first. Now, the base clock right now have changed. As you can see, it's 5.991. Okay, let me just rewrite this. Okay, this is gigahertz, and the max is at 5.630 megahertz. Oh, sorry, gigahertz. And the rest, okay, let me just pull this up. SoC voltage, still the same, which is 1.164. Then the peak will be at 5.0, let's see, 58 gigahertz. Yep. Okay, I'll just take it as this, though it can go high up, I mean way up high. Now for the active PPT and TDC and such, okay, I'll just take the highest, 198. Yep, that's right. For the TDC is 160 and the EDC is at 164. Okay, temperature. Now, as the power drawn as mentioned to you, right, I'm very cautious about the power drawn. It's only about 1 watt lower and such, so thermal will be only slightly better. I would say 74 degrees Celsius. Yep. Then followed by the motherboard, which is 49.5. The VRM is at 49.5. It's about the same, 51 degrees Celsius. The RAMs and the M.2, 42 degrees Celsius. And the score, I will wait for it. Now, something I would like to declare is that based on the fact that I've changed the cooler from a Arctic Liquid 2, okay, it's a dinosaur cooler, I should say, 360, to a Galahad 2 Lite, the non-ARGB version. It seems like the thermal is pulling pretty good. I won't be seeing the 80 degree kind of temperature. Now, if you were to judge between the original, okay, no PBO settings and such against this, right, it's almost identical except for the base clock, which is 300 more. The base itself, right, is 4.3. At default, it's already running 300 more megahertz. As for the second one, see, it run more than 600. around there. And for the max boost, right, yes, it did suffer a bit because I did the manual configuration, right? But I wouldn't care much about the max boost based on the fact that I want consistency. So at all times, I know that I'll be running the base clock. And coming to the result, wow, for the 3056. So this is better compared to the original. So if you want to set these settings, right, by all means you can do so. The advantages of it is that you gain the base consistency and the score. Okay, the rest, right, is almost identical. You see, it's all identical. Now coming to the final setting. Now I am not very happy with the polling on the PPT, TDC and EDC. If I were to really run, right, take a look at what happened. PPT is 99%, TDC is 99%, and the EDC is polling 73%. So I will clock this. And how do I actually do it? Well, let me just show you. Close all this and go into UEFI. Okay, will take some time. Now, the following settings that I've done, right, is based on my setting that I've done, fine-tuned and such, and I'm happy with it. So that's why I leave it that way. For yourself, right, please don't just blindly copy and assume that you'll work, because this depends on your processor silicon build. Okay, mine might be better than yours. So what I'm doing right now, in fact, going to the advanced mode, overclocking, I will set the PPT TDC. Now you can start off, these are safe figures that you can try if you want to. I always started this way, my own settings. Okay, then from there I will tune. And how do I tune? Basically I will add probably, this I will leave it, I will not touch, because this is more than sufficient for the system to run. I will just tweak this, either 1000, 2000 and such. So there are numerous of tests that I have to run, but I know that this system, right, is able to do this, which is pretty good. So I'm just gonna do this, right, 3030. Okay, done. And I will just run. Save and run. You can have a look at what happened next when I run it. Again, it's going to take some time. As I mentioned to you, the RAM training cycle and such, it will, react, let it run, and it will boot into Windows. But during the booting of Windows, it will pick up the stats from what you have done on UEFI. Okay, it's going to take some time here, and it's going to be booting in no time, I hope. Now, different board will react differently on the RAM training cycle and such, but I would say that MSI is rather matured in this because it's pretty consistent and stable. Okay, it's loading. Now, for the thermal performance, might not be a difference down here because I'm using a very good liquid cooler, which is the Galahad 2 Lite. So it will not show you the difference. I did a wrong thing. I should just stick with the Arctic Liquid Freezer 2. That will show you the difference. Again, from here, do not rush into things. Let it load. Let everything load properly. And once this is loaded, right, make sure to run the stability test on Idle 64. Okay, to confirm that all is doing stable. Okay, make sure you run all this. So be it 10 to 15 minutes. And assuming that this is your final configuration you have done, right, don't just leave there. Run this test again, which is the Idle 64. Run it probably, I will say, 1 hour, 2 hours or so. And to run the OCCT test. Okay. Alright, now everything is loaded. Let me just show you what's going to happen over here. Gonna run the, oh shucks, hardware failure. Is it gonna pull? Hopefully. Okay. Let's see. Yep, my configuration Okay, looking at this. Sometime, you know, Ryzen Master will do this. Okay, it didn't show me the... okay, I guess I have to restart. Hang on a minute. So sorry about this. Sometimes it does that when you configure in UEFI and Ryzen Master didn't pick it up. So it's always very important that you let your system load properly first before you know, clicking on to application and such. Which just now, right, when I look at it, hardware info did launch and my taskbar, and I just hurry to click up the idle 64, whereby my sound card driver and, you know, some of the rest that is running on the background, right, is still running. So never do that. Okay, hopefully right now I learned my lessons. I let it run. Okay, make sure that everything is stable. I just need to wait. Not gonna press anything. Okay, where is my hardware info? Okay, done. Alright. This is my snipping tool, which I don't use. I don't use, how should I say, the Windows snipping tool, based on the fact that I prefer to use this application. Okay, since I'm here, right, while it's loading, right, see, I can do lines like this. I can do orientation. This is negate, by the way. So if I were to do this, right, see, I can do illustration like pointing. Okay, see, and I can do annotation and such. Anyway, this is not about this program. I'm just letting time to load. Okay, done. Let's load Ryzen Master. Please pick up. Okay. All right. Good. These are my settings. Now coming to the chart, which I have done. Okay, I've set it to 230 watt. This is 186 and this is 196. So take note, when I run the Cinebench, right, this will show you the percentage, how equilibrium it is. And before I do so, just a double check on the CPU. Make sure that it's done. Yes, per die on the curve optimizer. Yes, it's picking up. Okay, fine. We shall run the test. Again, gonna push this. Now this is the previous score, alright. I might suffer a bit, but it doesn't matter because I have a consistency on this, which is actually what I've aimed. Then let's see, firm up. Okay, pull this out. I'm gonna run it for 10 minutes and to talk about the results and such. Okay, all right, here we go. Last 3 minutes or so. I'll take down the readings first before I talk. Okay, starting off with the max boost and the base clock. So the base clock is 5.016, okay, which is here, 5.016 gigahertz. The max boost is at 5.570 gigahertz. Power drawn 169. The SoC voltage, which is it's the same. Let me just take this figure. Now the peak will be at consistently 5.065. The active PVT 200. The TDC is 161, EDC is 163, and the temperature is 74 degrees Celsius. Okay, it's always hovering around 73 to 74 degrees Celsius. So I just set it, okay, probably 74 degrees Celsius. Okay, the motherboard 49.5. The VRM is 49. Then 51. The temperature on the RAMs will be 39. This is 39. And the M.2 is 42 degrees Celsius. Right now I'm just going to wait the score. Now, why am I doing this? Based on the fact that when I look at the graph, right, it's pretty consistent, as you can see. As mentioned to you, there are dips. There's nothing wrong with it. So long as a big gap off from each other will be fine. And looking at the PPT, TDC, and EDC, right, look at the percentage drawn. It's a equilibrium. This is something which I like. I wouldn't like something which is over, like all this in red. If you rewind back, right, on the default, which is the second one or the first one, you'll see that this is in red, which I do not like. I like it to be equal. And with this, right, I do apologize on the temperature itself. By right, if I were to use the, as mentioned, if I will use the liquid freezer tool, you will see a drastic change. Else, I'm using a Galahad tool light, so the temperature is hovering pretty fantastic. Okay, right now just to wait for the temperature, the scores in no time, and I'll talk about it. Now, the question did come to me whereby, hey Cleo, why don't you make the magnitude minus 20, minus 50, minus 20, or minus 30, or minus 50 and such? I'll explain to you why. Okay, looking at the score right now, this is at 43061. Alright, with my setting, right, I have better scores, as to say, better base clock. Okay, I might not have the boost clock. It doesn't matter, as I told you, this is random. What I want is consistency, so it hovers around here. And with the rest of the stat, right, it's even slightly better, I should say. Looking at the temperature, see, it's about the same, slightly better. Then I should be comparing the default together with this. So from base clock 4.6, I have jumped all the way to 5 gig, which is 317 more. Okay, which is pretty good. Though I lose on the max boost, it doesn't matter. I told you this is random. And looking at the results from here to here, a big leap. About 2,100 or so. About 2,100 or so, which is a big leap. Now, coming to the final question. This is just for testing, which I will not use. I know that I know that my processor can run, but no point stretching the magnitude. And I'll explain to you why in a short while. Okay. Again, gonna do a last set just for demo purposes. If you guys feel okay to do that, right, by all means go ahead. As I've explained the concept of the rubber band, right now when it's new, right, you can run at that magnitude, no problem. But as time goes by, right, this magnitude, the tension of the rubber band, right, will degrade, and that will cause instability. I've met this when I was doing the 5950X. The very first time when AM4 is out, I did that, and my processor was like, for the first few weeks it's running fine, but continuously when I stretch the magnitude, as in, like, having the stretch magnitude, it just go unstable. So that's the reason why I wouldn't do this on the AM5 platform. Okay, anyway, your question will be answered. Can I run at that? Yes, I can, no problem, but what's the point? I don't find any point just because of 100 or 200 megahertz more. Okay, I will set this 20 to 15. Okay, not aggressive, just a slight, because I wouldn't want my system to stretch to the max, like minus 30, minus 40. Some of you are crazy. In fact, you're killing your, I'm so sorry to say this, but you're killing your processor. That's for sure, because in the long run, it's not going to be very healthy. So just to show you, yeah, for the sake of it, why not? I'll just let it run. Okay, I think I'm going to repeat myself again here, because it's like going to kill the dead air, whereby your system will take up all the configuration, do the RAM training cycle, etc., etc. Okay, once it's done, right, you will push to Windows, and Windows again will do another step to verify what you have keyed in the on your UEFI. Then once that's done, right, you will push into Windows. And again, I have to remind you this: when it's booted in Windows, right, do not rush to click on application. Let all the background run, especially if you're running on ARGB programs and such, right. Let it run. Okay, don't just click on stuff instantly. Your processor will need time. Okay, our human brains will need time to digest. Same goes to the processor. Okay, I know I'm very long-winded, but as mentioned, I just want to kill dead air. Okay, I'll let it run, let it load. And again, I emphasize, once you have set any settings, make sure you run the stability test on either 64. I can't emphasize more than enough on this. You need to have your system stable before you run the Cinebench. And why am I skipping it? Because I've done the test beforehand and I know how much my processor can take on this MSI board. Okay, we just say, yep, let's run this, and you will feel, wow, fantastic, everything is fantastic. But for me, I will not run. Trust me on this one, because as mentioned, okay, this was the score for this tweak. Okay, right now I'm just gonna run this and to show you what's going on. Okay, just to verify CPU per die. Okay, -20, -15. I've increased by 5. So right now, the Cinebench. And again, I'm going to let it run for the 10 minutes. And by the end, right, I will talk about the results. Okay, let me just do this. Set this to 10 minutes. Okay, here we go. But before I do so, let me just copy this and to paste over here. Okay, and all this I will just delete. Okay, anyway, I know the SoC will be the same. This might be different. This I'm not too sure whether will it be the same. So I'll just delete all this. Okay, CPU temperature, I'll take this out. I'll take this out. CPU temperature, you might see a drastic change. I hope so. Hopefully that, you know, it will not show you the same. Probably about, I would say 2 to 3 degrees Celsius different. Based on the fact that this cooler, right, is in fact is very fantastic. Alright, here we go. Gonna do the 10 minutes run. Three minutes or so. As you can see, this is a better stability. As you can see, the flat line on the graph itself. Let me just take down all the readings. Okay, on the last set, which is this. Now, let me just see the SoC voltage. Yep, correct. It's the same. Now the PBT is 160. Sorry, the power drawn is 168. Then now, I'm not going to take the boost clock and the minimum, the base clock and the boost clock based on the fact that I've forgotten to reset, as you can see. So, I will skip this. But overall, I would say that the base clock, right? Okay, I can take the base clock. Okay, which is 5.072. Okay, and for the max, I will not take it because I didn't reset. And if you notice the previous run, right? All of a sudden, you know, the graph go blank because I pressed on the reset. I forgot to do so, and this I totally forgot. Anyway, next will be the peak, which is 5.0. Okay, 5.1 gigahertz. I'll do it this way then. Is it consistent? Okay, I'll take the max as 5.0. Okay, I'll just leave it as this is. Then coming to the active, PBT is 198. Then the TDC is at 160. and the EDC is 160. Wow, 165. Okay, I'll take it 165. CPU temperature 74 degrees Celsius. The motherboard, which is 50. Then VRM, which is 49. The chipset is at 51 degrees Celsius, if I'm not wrong. Yep, 39.5, 39.5, which are the RAMs. 39.5. Oh shit. 30. Okay, gonna do this properly. 39.5. And last but not least, the M.2 42 degrees Celsius. Okay, this you will have a fantastic score, that's for sure. So let's just wait for the score. Now, the reason why I'm not gonna do this course with the tension on only one stretch, which is your curve optimizer and such, if you to compare the ones that I've done with the magnitude of -15, -10 instead of -20, -10, they are about the same. Okay, though they're slightly higher, you will definitely have better score, that's for sure. But I will still not emphasize on using the last stats, though the temperature is about the same and such. Okay, and it's better than the default or even this, but I will still not run this. Okay, let me just put this CCD 0 as -15, then CCD 0 as -10, -20, and CCD 0 1, not 0, 15. Okay, this is incorrect. I did the other way around. Correct. Okay. Reason being, right, for the magnitude that I mentioned, okay, if you do stretch higher, right, yes, you will definitely get better scores. As you can see over here, wow, that's a lot. 5, 4, 3, 7, 6, 1. Now, with this few hundred scores difference in the magnitude, okay, yes, you might be tempted. I mean, I might be tempted to get this. Even if you can set up to -30, -25, or -40, minus whatever, it will be much higher. You can get up to 44K or even 45K or even 46K. True enough. But don't forget, you are stretching on the magnitude. Okay, for a long period of time, if you're going to run that, it's either it's going to deteriorate, the tension is going to deteriorate and become unstable, or it's going to snap. You are not able to boot. So do bear this in mind. So just as an experience, I mean, just as a experience review, right, I show you that yes, it can be done, not a problem. But for me, my personal choice, I will not run this. I would rather want to prolong the life of my processor and to run it moderate. By the way, it's really not much difference. I mean, it's like, you know, the scores is just a few hundred more. Probably 44K, yes, about 1,000. But what is 1,000 to me? It's nothing. Okay, I want my system to run stable and to have a prolonged life. Alright guys, hope you guys have enjoyed what I've shared with you, and thank you for watching. For those of you actually new to my channel, welcome to my channel. If you like my content, do remember to subscribe and to click on the notification bell button. Till then, take care, goodbye, see ya.